Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, for the opportunity to weigh in on this issue, one we've worked on a lot in California. You know, you would have to pose the question, what is the utility of this project? It's being compared to a lot of other important infrastructure projects in the history of California or in the history of the nation. I think nobody would dispute the interstate system, our California Water Project, the Federal Water Project. Other comparable issues have been very useful to many Californians and many Americans. This here is a much more select group. Indeed, in order to afford to ride high-speed rail, it would have to be subsidized per ticket in the true cost of operating it, or someone's going to have to pay probably $300 per ticket to ride it from LA to San Francisco or vice versa in order to sustain itself. It's not going to meet the mark of matching airline ticket prices. There's no possible way. We've heard some pretty grand claims on what it would provide for California. The authority at one time was trying to claim 1 million jobs for Californians. We had a hearing in the state legislature on it, finally pinned them down and said they meant 1 million job years, which might translate to approximately 20,000 jobs during the time it's to be built. We heard claims on what it would cost. The voters of California in 2008 were told that this would be a $33 billion project, up to 45 if you add a spur to Sacramento and one to San Diego. Those two have been long since abandoned in this project. And the price ballooned at that hearing we had in November of 2011 in the State Senate to just under $100 billion. So I wonder what the audit folks think about that, what the voters were sold when they were originally told $33 billion. So the governor revised the plan down to $68 billion, utilizing transport in the Bay Area and Los Angeles. Now, I can understand why those folks would want to have their areas enhanced with electrifying Caltrain. I'm sure that's a good thing. It's not the domain of high-speed rail to be doing so. This revised plan is not even legal under Proposition 1A because it doesn't deliver a true high-speed rail all the way from San Francisco to all the way to downtown Los Angeles. So in time, this will be exposed. So we have to ask ourselves here today, as a federal body, are we being good stewards of federal tax dollars with the $3 billion, $3+ billion of stimulus money that is still captured for this plan, as well as telling state voters that your investment of $9+ billion in state bonds, which have to be paid back 2-to-1 ratio, is this a good investment for you, for a plan that no private investors want to come in on? We can see that a forward-thinking project like the maglev, perhaps running from D.C. to Baltimore, has already attracted Japanese investors as a possibility. High-speed rail is using 18th century technology. It's still wheels running on a rail. It might go faster if it's not stopping in every burg up and down the valley in order to gain the votes of those legislators to put high-speed rail on the ballot. Indeed, how many true high-speed rail end-to-end trains are going to be run or will be able to run at 220 miles per hour on this project? It's not going to meet the goals. It's not going to meet the cost goals. We've heard some creative ridership numbers posed in the past by the authority that it might be 32 million riders, and it's going to replace the airplane riders from SF to LA, vice versa. There's only 8 million people that use airlines between those two towns. And so we're going to replace that with 32 million riders. There's only 31 million riders that use Amtrak nationwide in the 48 states per year. High-speed rail in California is going to surpass that. We've got some pretty phony numbers operating on this thing. And we're still seeing that taxpayers are going to be footing the bill federally and at the state level paying back those bonds. So we can only identify $13 billion of real funding so far to go into this project. By Governor Brown's estimate, it would be $68 billion. Where's the other $55 billion going to come from to build this thing? And what are the benefits going to be to global warming or climate change or whatever that is? Now, the Governor's proposal today was to divert $250 million from California's new cap and trade into this project. That's not fulfilling the goal of whatever cap and trade is, because high-speed rail won't be operable for at least 30 years to replace and start on the positive side on reducing CO2. In the meantime, they're going to be constructing it using heavy equipment to build the project. We saw the folks that got stuck in Antarctica the other day trying to explore the ice sheet down there. They felt bad because they had to get rescued because there's too much ice. And so they decided they had to offset their carbon footprint of getting rescued by the helicopters. And so they're going to go plant trees somewhere in Australia or New Zealand to offset that. Well, I saw an article last night that California, because of all the CO2 emissions that are going to be happening during the 30 years of construction, that they proposed they're also going to plant thousands of trees to offset the CO2 output from its construction. So we're not going to realize benefits anytime soon to the CO2 equation of this project. Indeed, when I saw that, there's a term in Hollywood, jump the shark. I think this project really jumped the shark when we started saying we're going to plant trees to offset carbon when it's supposed to be all about offsetting carbon sometime in the future. We're at a point that we really need to assess what our priorities are as a nation for our budget, for our spending. At a time, we had a budget deal the other day that's cutting dollars to retired veterans. We're going to go tell the people of this country, the people of California, that this is a project that is worthy of their goals. All the other things we're having to deal with, food stamp program, whatever. We're looking at this still, at this point, when we're $55 billion short of the funding to do what is now an illegal plan. We need to really take a strong look at putting the brakes on it here in Washington, D.C., and as I hope Californians will see, the opportunity to revote on this project by a ballot initiative that's underway right now. So, Mr. Chairman, I do appreciate the time, and I hope this committee will keep delving into this issue and the falsehoods that have been used to sell this to what was at the time a very optimistic votership back in 2008. So I thank you for your time, and I yield back.